and thank you for joining me again. If you watched my last review of Paradise City, you know that I am pressed for time these days, and I am not posting as frequently or as consistently as I would prefer or as I've been doing, but that is just my lot in life right now. I'm still trying to get these books up. I feel like I'm suffering as much as you guys might be suffering, if not more, because who knows when you're watching these, so you could have tons of options and tons of things to catch up on, whereas I'm not reading the books that I wanted to read. I had books from here until 2025 ready to go, and now things are getting messed up because I'm not getting them done the week they're supposed to be done. I'm pretty upset that things have not been going the way that they usually go, but that is life and we will be fine. I do plan on getting Paradise Road read and reviewed and posted eventually. It's just going to take some time, but in the meantime, I have a book I hadn't expected to read, but why not do it because I read it. And that would be Every Summer After by Carley Fortune. And this book, I was 100% ready to give a rave review. I flew through this book until I made one vital mistake. And this is something I do all the time, and I never regret it. But I regretted it for this book. So if you haven't read this book, you might not want to watch the rest of my review, but it was reading ahead. When I learned the plot twist, it completely changed my view of the main character. I felt extremely betrayed, and I could not continue to partake in her story without thinking this entire novel is predicated upon her actions. And what she actually did, I thought, came out of left field. Looking back on it, I do see there were a couple of seeds planted, but on the whole, I needed more development for that. I quit liking her. I quit sympathizing with her. When we actually, when I got to that actual part in the novel naturally, I felt like everything from there was too expedited. I didn't get nearly enough explanation for certain things. I didn't get nearly enough resolution for certain things after that point. Once you get to the climax, it's all downhill. I was not pleased. I did have quite a few people who they also took issue with this, but they took issue with the fact that this novel is a lot like Love and Other Words by Christina Lauren. I do not know who she is. It rings a bell, and it rings a bell in a negative way. Like, I read or I tried to read something of hers and was unimpressed, but a lot of people felt like this was a legit plagiarism of her novel. I did read one reviewer who said that they were similar books, but they had enough differences that you could just say similar themes, similar plot. But let's jump into it. We open with Percy Fraser, and she is going back to the lake that she grew up on for a funeral. The novel, it jumps back and forth in time, and I felt like the past was where the meat of the story was. The present really was kind of dealing with the fallout, and it wasn't bad, but the interesting parts were seeing her growing up, because it's about her relationship with this boy named Sam, his mother Sue, who is the one whose funeral she's attending, and then his brother Charlie. We realize her life has not gone the way that she expected it to go. She can't maintain a stable relationship. Sam was the love of her life, and she no longer has him in her life. She was a talented writer growing up, but she no longer does that. She's just an editor for a journal, but that's not really what she wants to be doing. She doesn't really have any friends, and the one friend she does have is this woman named Chantal, who she completely ignores this entire novel. I was really put off of Percy. Going into it, I could not understand why Chantal kept trying so hard, because Percy would not even send her a text message. And I'm like, why are you guys even friends? Percy is really selfish and self-centered in my opinion. But I did love her as she was growing up. Actually, I liked her and Sam until they hit like 15, 16, but we'll get into that. Let's just jump back. I'll start with her summers and then we'll kind of get into this present. But I think this was the specific reason that her parents bought a lake house at Barry's Bay, because she had been bullied. This was something that I thought was entirely swept under the rug, and it took far too long to understand why she was ostracized from her friend group. But backstory is, her best friend was a girl named Delilah. Delilah's the most popular girl in school. Percy is a horror fiend, so she at some point invites Delilah and two other girls from their group over to her house. Apparently Delilah gets so scared that she pees herself. And then she projects this embarrassment onto Percy, so she and these other girls cut ties with her and bully her mercilessly. Dealing with this aftermath, her parents are like, let's get you away from all that. We want you to decompress. So they buy a house at Barry's Bay. The first day she's there, Percy sees these two preteen teenage boys, Sam and Charlie. They live next door. They are from Barry's Bay. Their father had died some years earlier from a heart attack, and their mother is single parenting. She owns a restaurant called The Tavern. They strike up this friendship. Charlie brings Sam over at some point, and he's like, look, I'm gonna have friends over. Can you just hang out with Sam? They hit it off. They maintain a relationship throughout the year. Come back for year 14, and she's like, okay, Sam, growing out of that awkward stage. This is the summer that she brings Delilah with her. And this is where I get confused, because we are told that summer starts back up and Delilah acts like nothing ever happened. And when Percy asks about the other two friends, she's like, oh, well, they're just big babies. And for me, we got very little development on that whole topic of, you bullied somebody mercilessly and then you act like nothing happened. And Percy, we get a couple comments, but then that's it too. Like, why did she drop these other two girls? Like, what happened with all of this? Whatever the case, Delilah is boy crazy Stacy. She comes with Percy to the lake. She has her sights set on Charlie. Charlie wants nothing to do with them. As they're going through, I think Delilah's there for about 2 weeks, and as they're going through this, Percy begins to realize she likes Sam. This is kind of the revelation over this summer. Personally, I thought more was gonna happen, and there was a reviewer who thought that the first chunk of this novel was really boring. I didn't think it was that boring, but I did feel like it lacked something. Like, what was the point in each summer? Well, according to Fortune, the point of this summer is that Percy realizes how she feels about Sam. Delilah knows how she feels about Sam. So Delilah, in many ways, is Percy's cheerleader regarding getting together with Sam. The school year starts, she goes back. She does see the boys for like Thanksgiving and for Christmas. She lets Sam read her writing. Delilah and Sam are her beta readers, her alpha readers. They're the ones who will give her feedback. She wins a contest, all this good stuff. Then the next summer, when she comes back at age 15, she's really starting to notice how Sam is filling out. But this is the summer that Sam has taken up running, and he wants her to take up running with him. Very quickly, she realizes she's not a runner. There's an incident in which Delilah decided that she needed to take sexy underwear with her. So she wore some of that sexy underwear while they were running. And of course, as soon as they finished running, she's like, I need to hop in the lake, forgetting she's wearing her sexy underwear. And this has an effect on him physically. So now we're thinking maybe Sam likes her back, but nothing happens. She does say, I don't think I want to run, and at Charlie's suggestion, she takes up swimming. Does any of this really come into play in the novel? No, but her goal is to swim across the lake. At this end of summer, she does swim across the lake. I guess really what it does do is it offers an opportunity for her and Sam to bond. But personally, I feel like they were bonding already. I don't know why she had to take up swimming when it was a very minor part of her personality. It does continue to be something of mention, but she doesn't get a scholarship for it. She only swims the lake like 3 times in the entire novel. I wanted to know what the big deal with the swimming was going to be. Except that when she goes home, she does end up joining the swim team for 1 year and then decides, maybe I don't want to do the swim team because it'll require me to do things on weekends and I might want to do something else on these weekends. When she's 16, she starts dating Delilah's cousin Mason. But because she's in love with Sam, she can't fully invest in Mason. I am fully expecting Mason because Delilah is portrayed as something of a shallow character. We are first introduced to Mason as being very good looking, very cocky, and a hockey player. I'm expecting him to be something of a jerk, someone who's not worth her time because she is very intelligent. But because she can't have Sam, she just continues to string him along. She does let Sam know, and Sam is not very supportive of it. She's like, but should I go out with him? And he's like, well, do you like him? And she says, well, I like someone else more, but nothing comes from that. Well, what else is she supposed to do? And that was something that Sam's character flaw, and just the biggest character issue for me, was for both of them, you're just supposed to understand that the other person liked the other person, but we never dive into it. And this is ultimately what causes all of our issues, is this lack of communication. But I could not understand. It was obvious to the reader that Sam had feelings for her. It seems like he's cottoned on to the fact that she likes him, so I really do not know what the holdup here is. At some point, he tries to explain it away as like, well, we've got time, we're not ready, I don't want to hold you back. A lot of poor excuses, in my opinion, and for me, I feel like that's more on the writer than it is on the character, unless she was intending for us to be like, wow, these are really flimsy excuses. Like, come on now, just get yourself together and get together. I had deep issues, but when she comes back at 16, she is still dating him. Sam doesn't care for this. Eventually, what happens is they do declare their feelings for each other. But it absolutely goes nowhere because they're having the conversation about Mason again. And he's like, but do you still like that other guy? And she says, yes. And he says, does he know? And she goes, I don't know. He's hard to read. So in my opinion, Sam is giving her mixed signals from the time they're 15. They finally have this conversation somewhere along the timeline. I'm sorry, I can't remember exactly. Her parents have gone off to do something else, so she has the house to herself. She decides to pop in a scary movie. She gets too scared. So she calls the boys and she says, can I come over? They say yes. She ends up staying in Sam's room, and I thought this was a little contrived. On one hand, all the romance girlies are gonna love it, but on the other, it felt out of place in the writing, because this is a romance novel, but it's not a cheesy romance novel. She comes and he's like, you can sleep in my bed, I will sleep on the couch. And she's like, I don't really want to sleep alone. And then he's like, okay, well, I will sleep on the floor. And she's like, oh, do you have to? Can't you sleep in the bed? They change into their pajamas. It's middle of the summer and he's wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt. And she's like, why are you wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt? It's so hot. And he's like, because I usually just sleep in my boxers, and I think in this instance, it's just better if I sleep in sweatpants and a t-shirt. And I'm like, I'm really appreciating that he's trying to put these boundaries up, and it feels wrong the way that the whole scenario is set up. I would have preferred if, because they haven't admitted their feelings for each other, there are no boundaries for them to cross, because even if they're feeling something for each other, there's no admission. So it's not like, oh, well, we like each other and this probably isn't the best idea. There's none of that. So we can totally buy it as, well, we're just friends. I might like him, but he doesn't know I like him. And as far as I know, he doesn't like me. Nothing's gonna happen. Well, anyways, a couple minutes later is just like, oh my gosh, I'm just so hot. So she says, just take your clothes off. Yeah, so this leads to a really hot and heavy makeout session. There's not a lack of repercussions when they come down for breakfast and his mom is like, where did she come from and where was she sleeping? Because Sue had gone straight to bed after work. So I did like that at least the parents were present, because a lot of times in these novels, the parents are not present. But then she says, I want to be with you, and he reciprocates. But then he says, but it's just not the right time. I don't want to hold you back. We only see each other during the summer. So these are the cop-outs that we get. They decide to put a pause on it. But this leads her to just say, look, if he's not going to want me, if he's going to reject me, I have somebody who does want me. She makes things more official with Mason. They continue to date. We get back for her 17th summer, and Mason and Delilah, and then Delilah's boyfriend, visit. It is very uncomfortable. I don't know if Mason, I'm sure he knows about Sam, but I don't know if he's feeling threatened at all. But he's definitely staking his claim, and this is making Sam uncomfortable, and this is making Percy uncomfortable because she knows it's going to make Sam uncomfortable. And for me, I'm just like, look, Sam is the whole reason we are in this scenario. For all the romance girlies, it's great stuff because it is that drama that we love. But this is when I needed just a little bit more development, because Sam said no. So at what point are we going to acknowledge Sam acknowledging that, like, he brought it on himself? Because he's a pretty mature kid. Because his dad died from a heart attack, he's wanted to be a heart surgeon his whole life. So he's a smart guy. I'm sure he can own up to the fact that he's not with Percy because he told her, let's not be together. So this part just bothered me. In the end, she breaks up with Mason. They get together. Things seem to be swimming along pretty great until he says, hey, will you come to prom with me and this senior after party? They're all having a great time until he drops the bomb that he got accepted to this kind of pre-med course at the university, and he's not going to be around for the summer. She's devastated. He fails to have any sort of communication with her whatsoever. It's revealed that he was having a hard time adjusting. He was a big fish in a small pond, and then he got to this course, and he was a small fish in a big pond. So he was struggling to keep up with the coursework. His ego took a hit. And then he was all on his own, which is valid, but he, being an 18-year-old and being a moron, as we can all tell, because for the last 3 or 4 years he has strung Percy along because he obviously likes her and will not say anything, which that was so problematic for me. And maybe it's because I don't like that kind of drama, or maybe it is just I don't think that Fortune did a very good job writing it, but I don't understand why we had to keep getting these teasers, because it wasn't a good teaser. It wasn't like a cliffhanger teaser. It was kind of like stating the obvious without stating the obvious. When is something going to come to fruition? We have one makeout scene, but we have all these other little things where it's so obvious. There's all these innuendos and unsaid things and looks and I'm just like, I needed a little bit more push and pull, I guess. I needed a little bit more of will they, won't they, versus I want to, but they're not. Because we're getting it all one-sided from Percy, but then Sam will not make a move. And then this is where he and Charlie, I'm guessing, when they're 18 this final summer, and I think it was even the summer before, there's a more tension between the boys, which a lot of their tension is chalked up to just sibling rivalry. But I'm trying to figure out why Charlie is acting so funny regarding Percy and Sam. My initial thought, because I knew there was going to be a boy that she liked, my initial thought that it was going to be Charlie, because Charlie was the natural first choice. Sam was this gawky kid that was all knees and elbows, where Charlie was 15. He's like a man. But no, it was always Sam, which actually in the end I liked, because it's always the Charlies that the girls like, and then the Sams are kind of their consolation prize. But I needed a little bit more Charlie because of how he plays in towards the end, and I was very confused about where he was coming from. Charlie is seeing this too, and so if his issue is that Sam just won't grab the bull by the horns, like, why is everybody noticing what Sam is feeling but Sam? It was frustrating and ugh. Anyways, they have their time together. He goes off. He stops communicating with her, and she finds solace with Charlie. Spoiler, she ends up sleeping with Charlie, and this is the one thing that had driven her away from them. The whole crux of the novel is she has to come home to see her long lost love, but she also then has to face the decision that she made, the decision that tore them all apart and prevented them from seeing each other for 12 years. On one hand, she was really trying to be communicative with him, and he was not having it. And then he sends her an email, and he's like, look, we just need to take a break. We need to take a step back. I'm struggling here, and you're too much of a distraction. So on one hand, I'm just like, girl, go for it. I mean, if Sam is going to jerk you around, be free. If Charlie is going to give you what you need emotionally, I mean, like, maybe at this point, Charlie's the one you should have been with this whole time, and now we're gonna figure it out. Instead, this whole summer, he's helping her get through. He's a shoulder for her to cry on. He's a sounding board for her. He's an encouragement for her. And then they do have this moment where, a moment of passion, they end up sleeping together. She immediately regrets it, has this freak out, and this is when she starts to have panic attacks. Honestly, I thought the panic attacks were completely pointless. We do see them from the very beginning, but once I learned that her panic attacks were because she cheated on Sam, not because he did something, I was like, why are we having a panic attack over something that it was your choice? Do I understand your choice? Absolutely, because Sam was a jerk. She just felt like she never grew up. She sleeps with Charlie, and then she's like, I've got to tell Sam. She's planning on telling Sam at Thanksgiving. Unfortunately for her, this is when Sam asks her to marry him, and she's like, okay, well, I guess I can't tell him now, But on top of that, she's like, well, I can't even accept his marriage proposal. So this is the point where she says, look, this is probably not the best idea. And I did really like this. I liked how she's like, well, if you can't commit to me now, if I can't trust you now, how can I trust that you will stay committed to me in a marriage? Which is a valid point. And this is when his character flaws became so problematic for me, because we never address why he takes things so slow. Except for the fact that he's like, oh, well, we have time. But why do you think you have time? Because at the end, he's like, yeah, I should have known we would never have time with the way that my dad died young and my mom died young. And I wish we'd just gotten into a little bit deeper, expanded all of that a little bit more. And then with Charlie, with her sleeping with Charlie, I was not clear about his feelings for her. It becomes very evident, one, that both boys are extremely gorgeous, but that she becomes quite beautiful. So Charlie will make comments throughout the years that on the surface, I was just like, well, he's just that older brother trying to rib his younger brother and possibly spur this younger brother into acting on his feelings. But now I'm like, was Charlie being very passive aggressive in letting Percy know that he was attracted to her? He was one of those guys who never had a steady girlfriend, so there's no indication that he could be serious about her, or that he would be serious about her. There's no point in which he tries to have one-on-one time with her, or that they ever have one-on-one time with each other. So this is where I don't understand where he comes from, because he legit acts like when they sleep together, he legit acts like this is something he's been wanting. Like a relationship with her is something that he has been wanting, but he didn't want to do anything about it because of Sam. And that threw me. A lot of these summers are overview. We'll get snippets of scenes, but we don't go in depth into these summers, because you have to remember this is 5 summers worth of content, plus in between every summer we're also getting her present day narrative. So that's a lot of content, and you're not going to be able to get into it. So that's when I'm like, what can we pare down from to get to the things that would make these characters' actions make sense? Now we're sort of caught up to the present. She has encountered Sam. Like, she encounters him right off the bat, which was surprising for me. Although, no, actually, let me go back. Delilah ends up going to the same school as Sam, and she asks Delilah to keep an eye out on Sam, or for Sam. One night, Delilah gives her a call and tells her that Sam had tried to hit on her and was like, hey, do you want to go upstairs? She refuses to believe that this is true, and she accuses Delilah of making it up, or maybe sensationalizing it, because Delilah is proud of her reputation, if you catch my drift. Delilah is like, I can't believe you would ever say that to me. Don't talk to me again until you're ready to say you're sorry. 12 years later, she still hasn't said she's sorry, but considering the fact that she has one friend, and this is Chantal, and she refuses to respond to any of Chantal's attempts at communication, I'm not surprised that she never apologized to Delilah. But now we are in the present. She's reconnecting with Sam. He is a hunka burning love. He has become a doctor. However, Sue died from cancer, so he had come home at some point to take care of her. So he now lives at Barry's Bay, which not exactly high society. He is dating a woman named Taylor, and they've been together for a couple of years. This devastates Percy, which I'm just like, Percy, why are you taking things so personally when it's all your fault? And she does try to remind herself of that, but in light of what she did, I simply could not stand behind her anymore. I understood why she did it, But because we got so little development around the whole scenario, it made me dislike her. And then everything she did, everything she said, I was like, I don't believe you. Those two, well, Sam breaks up with Taylor. She and Sam have a little hanky-panky. After the funeral, they come back to his house. They finally sleep together. So this whole novel leading up to her sleeping with Charlie, it is heavily insinuated that she slept with Sam. I guess all those moments where he was above her were just them messing around. I don't really know, but she never slept with Sam. But she finally sleeps with Sam. He declares he loves her. She admits what she did. This, for me, was a little wishy-washy. Spoiler, Charlie had already told him. Charlie told him that Thanksgiving that he proposed to Percy because he was such, or no, maybe he told her at Christmas because Sam was so mopey that Charlie was like, well, maybe if I give him context, it will help. This sends Sam into a tailspin, and that's why he then hit on Delilah because he was all about sleeping with girls every night. Her rejection of him snapped him out of things. But he gets mad at her for telling him what happened. Fortune tries to back it up with him being like, I don't know why I got so mad. I thought I was over it. I guess it just took me back. Like, she tries to retcon his reaction, and to me, it did not make any sense. They talk things through, and they get together. We pick up a year later. She's finally reconciled with Delilah, who, I mean, I know she's an adult now. I mean, they're in their 30s now. And so I would hope that she would be a bit more mature. But, despite the kind of teenager she was and the way that she treated Percy when they were children because of something that had nothing to do with Percy, I was surprised that she would accept her with open arms the way she did. They've reconciled, finally scattering Sue's ashes. Unbeknownst to Sam, Percy is going to propose to him. So that is where we end. On one hand, I thought this was a really great book. I liked Percy and Sam. I thought they were a great couple. I enjoyed getting to know them. I thought it wasn't a very deep book. Like, I thought the pacing was nice, and I liked that it was very kind of youth reminiscent. It took you back in time to a time that was just more innocent and more fun, and to when you're figuring yourself out as you're growing up. But then when we finally learned the secret, it needed to have happened sooner. I mean, I thought, still the pacing was well done. I liked how she wove the past and the present together. It made sense when she put it, but we had no indicators. We had nothing really to support the fact that she would end up sleeping with Charlie. We had, I don't know. I needed Percy to take accountability more than she did. It was almost like she knew she was at fault, but she still wanted to be the victim. And these panic attacks are like the manifestation of her guilt, but at the same time, she still needs to be poor little old me because I'm having a panic attack. So I have mixed feelings about this book. Would love to know what you think, but it's time for me to go to bed. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you later. Bye.